Hello friends, this is Manoj Poptani. I welcome you all on behalf of the Edupedia world. By the grace of Almighty, we all are witnessing this beautiful day today, and I'm sure you guys are enjoying your time. And certainly you guys are honoring your word. That was a promise to make regular and recurring revisions. I am repeating this particular thing in each and every presentation of mine time and again because I don't want any of my students to witness any kind of problem during CA final examination. I mean, we all are aware of the fact that it contains vast syllabus, and in order to score and crack CA final examination, the only thing would be regular and recurring revisions timely. So guys, make it a point and make it a habit to revise whatever is being taught in the presentations. This is the 9 presentations and we have almost covered more than 75% of the syllabus relating to bond valuation. I'll be starting with this presentation with the topic of modified duration of a bond. In our last video presentation, we have already covered the topic of duration. Now we'll be studying about modified duration. What does modified duration means? So, modified duration is a formula that expresses the measurable change in the value of a security in response to a change in interest rates. Modified duration follows the concept that interest rates and bond prices move in exactly opposite directions. This formula is basically used to determine the effect that a 100 basis point or 1% change in interest rates will have on the price of bond. Let me just tell you, 100 basis point is equivalent to 1% change. So if suppose the bond pricing valuation turns out like 100 from like 1000 basis point, it would be termed as 100% change in the interest rate. So how this formula is basically, how modified duration is basically makes us determine the effect that 100 basis point changes in interest rate will have in the price of bond. So this is one tool which is essentially used in the bond markets in order to check out the duration of a bond. Modified duration is that one handsome tool for that matter. So guys, modified duration is more commonly used in interest risk management strategies. The other name of modified duration is in itself volatility, since it helps us to study the volatility, that is the risk, the change in bond prices with respect to the change in yield. It can be simply said as Macaulay duration divided by 1 plus k, or we can say Macaulay duration divided by 1 plus ytm to the power n. Let's suppose we have a portfolio of 1000 bonds and we know that their individual weightage and their respective durations. We can first find out the portfolio duration. For a current yield, we can find out the modified duration of the portfolio. Now, consider that we expect a small change in the interest rates. The above equation, which we just referred out in our last videos as well, would easily tell us the overall impact in bond valuation instantly. Else, it is certainly going to be a very cumbersome procedure to study the effect of change in yield in each bond and thus finding out its weighted average. So we can simply go by modified duration in order to extract that information well on time, and that's a very handy formula which can easily serve as a good tool. Before moving further, I would like to reiterate you back to the topic duration, which was talked upon by Macaulay Duration. Macaulay Duration. Modified duration is an extension of Macaulay Duration, which allows investors to measure the sensitivity of the bond to changes in interest rates. In order to calculate the modified duration, the Macaulay duration must first be calculated. Macaulay duration is equivalent to sum of present value of all the cash flows into time value divided by market price of the bond. Here, the present value of all cash flows is the present value of a coupon at the period T, that is period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4 and so on, and T is equivalent to time to each cash flow in years. So let's suppose you invest in any kind of bond, you will be able to extract the coupon in first year, in second year, in third year and so on. And at the end of during your maturity, you will be able to receive the maturity amount plus your coupon rate. So the cash flow of that year would be coupon rate plus maturity, and all during those years you'll be able to extract the present value of all the cash flows for that matter. This calculation is performed and summed up for the number of periods to maturity. That's how Macaulay's duration works. We have already covered this topic in our last presentation as well. I just wanted to reiterate you in order to help you in guiding how modified duration and Macaulay duration go hand in hand together. Now let's jump on to another topic of ours today, and that is limitations of duration. Duration doesn't say anything about the credit quality of a bond or bond fund. It never says that this product, like this bond, is having a rating of like AA plus or AAA plus or B plus. So duration is absolutely not concerned with the credit quality of a bond or bond fund. A fund's average duration changes as its portfolio changes. So meanwhile, it can be said like you'll be taking up the portfolio or enhancing it or increasing it or diversifying your portfolio. In such a case, the average duration of that fund is definitely going to change. The duration at the time of purchase may not be at all accurate after the fund's holding have been adjusted. Let's suppose in the beginning you have only two securities in your portfolio, and somehow it has just started out with the coupon rate being in floating rate bonds. So meanwhile you will be adding up your portfolio by including more of the bond market securities in it, and somehow it is definitely going to take time to adjust the duration of that bond portfolio. So it is well said that the duration at the time of purchase may not be able to accurate itself. However, the same is going to get adjusted once the funds holding are properly being diversified and made. The concerned investors should regularly check their bonds funds average duration. It is rightly said, one has to watch the markets timely with regular updates. So guys, a change in interest rates is basically having its two effects on the bond's return. First, there is a price effect in which a change in interest rate affects the price of a bond. If the investor's horizon date is different from the bond's maturity date, then the investor will be uncertain about the price he will receive after selling the bond. And secondly, there is some reinvestment effect available as well, in which the interest rate changes affect the return the investor expects from reinvesting those coupons. If interest rate increases, the investor would see a fall in the price, but would be able to reinvest those coupons at a higher rate because the same would be available in the market at higher rate. However, if the interest rate falls, the investor would see a rise in the price, but the same would be able to reinvest those coupons only at a lower rate. So the gains and losses do not exactly match, but somehow we adopt the measures like immunization. We'll be covering this topic in my next presentation. We'll be talking about immunization and bullet immunization in my next presentation. So do watch out that as well. You'll be able to get the entire clarity about limitation of duration with the perspective of immunization, right? Let's move on to the next topic, and that is bond convexity. So that has been like the hot topic kind of a thing for the institute. What does convexity mean? How it is worked with bonds? So we'll just go through the same. Convexity refers to the shape of the price yield relationship and can be used to refine the modified duration approximation of the sensitivity of prices to interest rate changes. Convexity is basically the difference between actual price change in a bond and that with the predicted one by duration statistic. Whereas the duration is the first derivative of bond pricing equation with respect to the yield. We have already discussed about that in our last presentations. Convexity is the second derivative. The first derivative of price with respect to yield is negative, which is usually evident by watching out those downward sloping curves. But there is also a second derivative that is positive. That is the decline in the bond price as yield increases at diminishing speed. The shape of this curve is the bond's convexity. The sharper the curve, the greater is the convexity. It measures the rate of change in modified duration as yields change. Convexity basically helps in measuring the rate of change in modified duration as the yields change, whether they go up or down. Bond investors can use convexity calculations to improve the estimate of total percentage of change in bond prices. Convexity indicates the extent to which duration is affected by the curvature of price-yield relationship. That is, in conjunction with duration, convexity shows how much more bond prices will rise with a drop in yield and how much less prices will fall with an increase in the bond yield. As such, convexity acts to adjust duration so that when used together, they provide a more complete measure of bond price volatility. The more pronounced is the curve, the greater the yield will change, and the more important convexity becomes for that matter. Duration can measure the price change accurately for an infinitesimally small change in interest rates, but as the rate changes increase, the importance of convexity grows. Convexity basically shows the extent to which bond prices rise at a greater rate as yields fall, then they fall as yields rise. The effect of duration on price and the effect of convexity on price should be added together to obtain an improved approximation of the change in prices for a given change in yield. We can say that it is a measure of curvature of price-yield relationship because modified duration is the slope of the yield curve at a given yield. Convexity basically indicates the changes in duration. So guys, that was all about convexity. It has been like one of the hot favorite topics for CA final bond valuation, and it's really practically adapted to watch out these kind of terminologies and these kind of aspects which are involved in regular bond markets. You need to tap the regular market which is available on National Stock Exchange as well as Bombay Stock Exchange. That way you'll be getting an idea. Apart from theoretical knowledge, you will be also increasing your practical horizon base. So do watch out markets which are available regularly on moneycontrol.com or naceindia.com. That will be a great thing for you guys to learn SFM in real practical sense. Let's move on to formula and example of calculating convexity. Convexity can be calculated with this formula, that is 1 divided by 1 plus I square and cash flows sum of divided by 1 plus I to the power t, that is time period, into time period square plus t divided by value of bond currently. So for example, if in our case the convexity per period will be, if we are having the cash flows, that is coupon rate 40 rupees, we'll be first making it that way, calculating the present value of all the cash flows, plus at the last time we'll be calculating the coupon rate plus maturity. So firstly we'll have to calculate the present value of all the coupons, that will be 40, then multiplied by 1 to the power square plus 1 divided by 1 plus yield, and that way it's going like, and in the last we'll be taking up coupon rate plus maturity, that will be 1040 multiplied by 4 square plus 4 divided by 1 plus yield whole to the power 4, and this will be completely divided by the present value of bond, that is 964.54. We'll be able to extract and calculate the overall convexity for this matter, and that would be 16.758. So guys, that was the complete topic relating to bond convexity. It is one of the important topics, and we'll be covering more on this aspect with our practical questions that we'll be discussing once we'll be completing this chapter. And in my last video presentation relating to this chapter, we'll be covering the entire questions which have already been asked in CA final examinations in prior attempts. So that way you'll be getting the complete knowledge about theory as well as the practical base which is usually asked in examinations. Let's move on to another topic, that is expectations hypothesis. Expectation hypothesis assumes that investor establishes bond prices and interest rate strictly on the basis of expectation for interest rates. That means the investors are indifferent with respect to maturity and they treat long-term bonds and short-term bonds of the same risk. That is the kind of expectation while one invests in the bond markets. Usually they just vouch out for the interest rates which are prevailing in the market and how much coupon the bond security is basically providing to them. That way they are going to invest. But however, having said that, that is not actually the case. One has to look out for maturity as well as taking out the concern that long-term bonds cannot be treated equivalent to short-term bonds. They are having different maturity. Definitely that is going to impact the bond pricing as well. In such a case, in expectation hypothesis theory, the maturity risk premium for a long-term bond is considered as 0. As a result, the long-term interest rate is simply the weighted average of current and expected future short-term interest rates. In other words, to find out a long-term interest rate, we would use a current short-term interest rate and the expected future short-term interest rate, and do not use future expected long-term interest rates. Thus, the forward rates are equal to market consensus expectation of the future short-term, that is spot interest rates. Now, in order to provide you the entire clarity with this expectation hypothesis, I've already derived 2 of the examples. Let's go with our first example. If, let's suppose, an year 1 spot rate is 6%, 1 year forward starting from 1 year from today, that would be 8%. What is 1 year forward starting from 2 years from today if the 3-year spot rate is 9? So that way we'll get to know that the future value, the face value of INR in 3 years would be 1.09 raised to the power 3. We can extract that today. If I would have been like taking up the interest rate for 1.09, what would it be after a period of 3 years? That would be 1.29503. The future value, face value for INR 1 in 2 years, that would be derived by multiplication of 1.06 with 1.08, because we have already been provided with 1 year forward starting 1 year from today, that is 8%. So we'll have to divide 1 year spot with 1 year forward starting from 1 year today in order to check out what will happen to the face value of INR 1 in 2 years, and that would be 1.1448. So the forward rate in the year third year spot rate, taking care of that, would be 1.29503. That was the face value of INR 1 in 3 years. That would be like future value of INR 1 in 3 years. That was 1.29503. That will be divided by future value of INR 1 in 2 years, and that was 1.1448. We'll be subtracting 1 from that and we'll get to know the percentage, that is 13.12. So the forward rate, if 3 year spot rate is 9%, that would be 13.12%. Now let's just take an exactly opposite example to that. In that case, in this example, we'll check out that if 1 year spot is 6.5%, and here we are already having the 2 year spot which is directly 7.5. So we don't need to find out 2 year spot in this, because in last example it was provided to us 1 year forward rate from current period. So here we have already received the 2nd year spot, and the 3rd year spot is 10%. So what is 1 year forward starting 2 years from today? We'll simply first calculate the future value of INR 1 in 3 years, and that would be 1.10 to the power 3. That would be 1.331, and future value of INR 1 in directly 2 years. We are not supposed to now multiply 1.065 to 1.075. We'll just multiply 1.075 with 1.705 simply to the power 2, because here it is not required, unlike the last example. We'll get the value, future value of INR 1 in 2 years as 1.15563, and we'll be able to find out the 1 year forward starting 2 years from today, and that would be 1.331 divided by 1.15563 subtracting 1, that is equivalent to 15.18%. So guys, that was all about expectation hypothesis. Since now it has never been asked in CA final examination, but in order to provide you the complete conceptual clarity with relating to each and every aspect and topic of bond valuation, I am covering the entire syllabus. So you need to just revise it in order to get the basic practical knowledge regarding that as well. I'll be concluding this video with a dose of motivation, and that would be, you can do anything. Just get up and do it. Follow your dreams. Mark my words guys, you just need to practice hard. You just need to revise your topics on time. You just need to give your 100% to your CA final examination. And believe me, that day is not far when you'll be able to add a prefix in front of your name, and that would be CA. You can do anything. Mark that. With this, I'll be concluding a video. Thank you. And please keep interacting. Drop down your comments, your questions, your queries, anything which you would like to say to me for that matter in my comments box. And that way it will make us easily aware about your problems, your general queries which are usually arising in the minds of students as well. That will help us in understanding your needs better, and somehow that will guide us in interacting with you day in and day out. Interaction is the key to any kind of communication, and we'll be glad if you have that kind of interaction with us. So stay connected guys. Thank you on behalf of the Edupedia world. Have a nice day. Take care. Love you all.